For almost 20 years, Family Guy had a pretty simple answer to one of its oldest mysteries: who can actually understand Stewie Griffin? Then season 24 completely broke that answer, and if you take that episode seriously, it changes almost every interaction Stewie has ever had in the show. To start with a little background, for the first few seasons in Family Guy, it was really hit or miss as to whether or not the adults and older children actually acknowledged Stewie when he said something. We could all understand him, but it was pretty vague as to whether or not anybody else in his family could. He was really the only baby that talked, and we did see other babies within the show, but if you look back, the only consistent member of the family they actually spoke to was Brian, which, looking at the overall universe, tracks, since all babies within the universe can actually talk to animals, and that's its own video eventually. But then as the seasons progressed, Stewie started talking to more and more adults, and they definitely knew what he was saying, as well as the family kinda seemingly do the same thing. And this was pretty much the norm all the way until season 7 episode Love Blackjulie, where I guess they decided they needed to just go ahead and give us an explanation, and we'd get that explanation through this conversation between Brian and Stewie, where Stewie says, "Let me do all the talking." Brian then says, "I think I can communicate with her better. She's only going to get the gist of what you're saying." Stewie then says, "Really? Isn't she one of those people outside of the family who can understand me?" Brian says, "No, I think because of Cleveland, she's close enough to the main cast that it might be a little weird." And then Stewie says, "Really?" Then there's a fourth wall break by the crew saying, "We're filming." They ring the bell and both of them talk to Loretta. And this is basically where she says, "I get the gist of what you're saying, Stewie," basically confirming what Brian said. Ignoring the fourth wall break, and for those of you who don't know, Family Guy is actually a reality show within the Family Guy. Eventually I'll explain how exactly that works. But now we have a rule for who can understand Stewie. The family, their friends, and their friends' family, essentially the core cast. Everyone else just gets the gist of what he's saying. So does this rule actually hold up? Not really. Even up to this episode, Stewie has had plenty of full conversations with people outside of the family, and they all understood him perfectly fine. As the show progresses and he starts getting more screen time through all of his and Brian's shenanigans, everyone can pretty much just understand Stewie no problem. So, not a great explanation, but one that worked, and since it was confirmed that other people outside the family definitely understood him, the floodgates were pretty much open. And you would think that this was the end of the conversation, and it was, all the way up until season 19's episode, Stewie's First Word. In the episode, Stewie gets mad at church when the guest Wi-Fi sucks and he doesn't get a cookie due to Lent. This leads him to scream "fuck" at the top of his lungs, and everyone hears him. Then Chris says this is his first word in church, and Lois doubles down on this fact later at the house. Again, Brian explains it when he says, "I don't get it, Stewie. You've been talking forever. Why did everybody suddenly understand you now?" Stewie then says, "I don't know. I was feeling so much intense emotion in the moment that one word just burst through." Brian says, "Yeah, but now what? Everyone can understand you?" And then Stewie says, "I don't think so, not unless I'm yelling something that I feel strongly about." He then yells, "Greta Gerwig is a national treasure," and the whole family ignores him. Stewie says, "See, nothing." Eventually, Lois figures out that she is the one who said the curse word and goes away for a while, and then when she comes back, Stewie is apparently so happy to see her that he says his second word, which is "mommy." So it's actually a pretty sweet moment they gave you at the end. Now they're trying to tell us that for the first 12 seasons, maybe even longer, no one could actually understand Stewie. Not his family, not their friends, not any other adults he has spoken to throughout the series, no one. Clearly, this is not true. And Chris should know this better than anyone, since at this point he had used Stewie to become popular at the school and to help him get a girl that he liked, and they sang an entire song about it, as you guys can see. Now we could let this go if moving forwards this was the established rule. Stewie can only say 2 words, he only talks to Brian, no one else within the family acknowledges he can talk, and did they do that? No, they didn't. Brian and Stewie are definitely still talking to adults and doing adult things. So this doesn't really make sense, and again, they abandoned the rule that they gave us. They even doubled down on this in season 24 episode, The Edible Arrangement. Stewie accidentally takes some of Brian's edibles, spikes Lois's wine so the two of them get high together, and Lois realizes that she can actually understand Stewie talking. The episode is actually a really good one, with the two of them having like a real heart-to-heart for the first time in the series. But what they're saying here is that Lois can only understand Stewie when she's high, since as soon as it wears off, she can't understand him anymore, except, maybe the only 2 words he can say, which are "mommy" and "fuck." So, does this make sense? Maybe. They just established the family can't understand him when he said his first word, even though they didn't stick to it, but we've also never seen Lois interact with Stewie when she was high. Drunk a few times, but never high. So maybe there is some legitimacy to this. Who can understand Stewie? Well, the easy answer is, it depends on the episode. If the plot requires a person to understand him, then they're gonna understand him. So everybody, sometimes nobody, or maybe just specifically one person can. With that being said, I actually have an idea that might actually make everything we went over make sense within the show. Everyone can understand Stewie, except for specifically the adults in his family and their immediate friend group. It sort of flips the script, but looking back on it, you don't really see Peter and Lois listening and holding conversations with Stewie. They interact with him, but most of the time they just talk at him, whereas Meg, Chris, and realistically everybody else can understand him plain as day. Even looking at the examples we've looked at today, it makes everyone else's reactions make sense. Loretta could understand him, she just wasn't paying enough attention to even get his name right. Everyone in the church, when he says his first word, was realistically reacting to somebody just yelling fucking church. Chris was probably just messing with his brother or following along with the charade of not understanding him. But based on Lois's reaction at home, she seems like this was genuinely concerned about Stewie not talking for so long and what his first word actually was. Tack that on to her genuine excitement when he says mommy, and the fact when he screamed at them, they just straight up ignored him, all points to them genuinely not being able to understand him. Then Lois gets high, hears him talking, and is surprised. Oddly enough, the weed broke through whatever fog or barrier there is to understanding him and allowed for the two of them to connect for the first time ever. But hey, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Who do you think can understand him? Do you like my theory and explanations, or do you think they work? If not, did I miss something that can change things? And while you're down in the comments, please remember to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell so you never miss another video from me, and I'll see you guys in the next video.